box office overhauls, updates on Max's Harry Potter series, and James Gunn's DCU structure? This and so much more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Screen. I'll be your host today. My name is Ryan Gum, and with me, I am joined, as always, by Jake Holtzclaw. Jake, how have you been today?
I'm doing great, man. Sounds like better than you.
Yeah, no, for those listening at home, I'm happy you exposed me within 30 seconds of us being on the pod. I have been trying not to throw my guts up all day, and so, but I'm here for you. I have to, I listen, I love, once again, like last episode, I love to yap. I have to spread the gospel that is cinema news and box office numbers. I couldn't do this without, I couldn't go without doing it, I should say. So here we are. Bear with me, is what I'll say. Bear with me in episode 3 of Beyond the Screen. With that, I think we should just go ahead and hop right into it. And with that out of the way, that awkward little tidbit. Segment 1, as always, box office numbers. Now, if you've been here the last few weeks, you'll know that a couple of films have really kind of monopolized on numbers, and it's no different on the top of the list today. Today, we are run by Moana 2 with $51.3 million at the box office earned. Wicked stays at 2 with $36.4 million, and Gladiator 2 with $12.6. That is a exact 1 through 3 as last week. Nothing changed. What do you think? Why that is, Jake?
Two really strong kids movies there. Both like grossing insane amounts. So Moana 2 is grossing almost 300 million, and Wicked is almost grossing 323, or they're at 322 million. And then Gladiator is about half that. So I think like cheat code, kids movies, man. People are able to just take their whole family to them, and I think that helps a lot in terms of just gross. You get like 2 or 3 kids, because I think the nuclear family is still, isn't it like 1.5 or 2.5 kids? So you get the whole family there. That's 4
and a
tickets.
Dog, right? And a dog in the nuclear family. But you're not bringing the dog to the theater. But anyway, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it.
Oh no. Another thing to add, we need a bulletin list of like things to not do. If you were here last week, you'll know it's 1, don't sing in the movies. Let everyone enjoy it. 2, it's don't take pictures of the movie screen. That is in fact illegal. And 3, don't bring pets. I don't think I have to explain why that's bad. Continue, Jake.
I mean, we are the fun police, basically, is what we're saying. You aren't allowed to do anything in these movie theaters. You will sit down and you will stare at this screen.
I will be sitting behind you holding your eyes open like in Clockwork Orange when he's watching the little film at the beginning. Yeah. That is me. I'm sitting behind like, you will sit still. Yeah, that is us. We're film snobs, Jake. We have a degree in this. So I feel like we've earned this right.
How dare you blink during Wicked? How dare you?
Whenever someone disagrees with me on my film take, my first response is, did you go into debt to know about this? Because if the answer is no, sit back down. Sit down.
Oh, my gosh.
But no, moving on down the list. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We are film majors, far from experts, but we are snobs.
I will take my snobby nose.
All right.
Moving down the list past Gladiator.
Moving down the list.
Pushpa, The Rule, Part 2. I have never heard of this film. I don't even know who its distributor is. It's AA Films. I don't know who that is. I could not tell you what other films they've done. They seem to be really indie. They come in at number 4, earning $9.3 million in its first week. They topped Red One. Red One sticks around in the top 5, continuing Dwayne Johnson's really impressive streak of 2 films in the top 5 of the box office every week. If those of you who are curious about what Pushpa the Rule Part 2 is, here is the IMDb description. Pushpa struggles to sustain his sandalwood smuggling business in the face of tough opposition from the police. I don't know.
So I just looked it up on like Google to see anything I could find out about it, and the budget is in another monetary value that I don't know. I think it's Afghanistan or India. It's crore. Crore. So if that kind of like tells you where this movie might have been made, um, that's probably why we haven't heard of it.
Mm.
AA Films
It's interesting
is
that a film. See, when I saw it and I read
Indian.
Sandalwood, it's India. Yes, that was exactly what I was about to say. It seems like Bollywood. Like that was my
Yeah.
first thought, but I didn't want to just assume. And I think it says a lot that a. And I hope I'm being correct in assuming and just calling it Bollywood. I don't know much about Indian films, so I could be completely wrong with that. But to see a film like Pushpa in its first week top read one, and there's more films on this list that are really intriguing that it didn't like that it still overcame these. So I have never heard of Pushpa, and if you've seen it, let us know in the comments what you think. As we had said earlier, Red One is 5, rounding out the top 10. Let me actually back up a second. Of the top 10 this week, carrying over from last week, half of them are different. Half of what we usually would know going into our third week of the show, those regular hard hitters like Conclave, Anora, Smile 2, Venom 3, they've all dropped out of the top 15 even. They're nowhere near the top 10 anymore. Moving past Red 1 is a familiar face. We see Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, the 2024 re-release for its 10-year anniversary, earning over $4.6 million. IMAX has already gone out on a limb and said, hey, we're going to keep pushing this out to theaters. We're looking to continue this stretch. Jake, why is this a thing?
Well, Interstellar has always been one of those like film snob movies. It's gained itself up there with Kubrick and it blanking on me now, but just film snob movies. I think Interstellar is what film professors point people to for different reasons, and to hit top 6 is kind of crazy, but I think people just want to see it.
Yeah, I know more than one person, and I'm sure if multiple people I know have this opinion, then it's got to be. That's kind of one of the things I've learned in my lifetime is if you have that opinion, and if other people have that opinion in your circle, more than likely it's more than just you five, right? Interstellar, for a lot of people, is one of the, if not the best films of all time for those who choose to have it in their top 10 or whatever. So the fact that Interstellar is still seen on that high of a level, raising over 4.5 million in 1 week in its re-release, I think it's impressive, and I think it speaks to the staying power of Christopher Nolan. What will happen moving forward in his career? Think about what we look back and we look at Kubrick, right? Scorsese. We look at these guys and we're like, yeah, like substantially these guys are up there. We're always going to go back and rewatch it. You called it film snob movies. Nolan's right there with them, and I think we're watching one of the genuinely best filmmakers of our time at the top of his craft. Moving down the list, that was 6. Interstellar was at 6. 7, Solo Leveling Reawakening by Sony Pictures, another one I'm not really familiar with. Moving down the line at 8, For King and Country, A Drummer Boy Christmas Live. That is a band that's a Christian, like, I don't even want to call them rock. They're like Christian contemporary alt music. They released a live, like, sort of show movie, like, kind of like imagine what Taylor Swift did last year. I think that was last year. They did something similar. At 8, they made over $2 million. That was by Fathom Events. Moving on, at 9 is Y2K. It's a horror film from A24. I'm pretty sure that stars Rachel Ziegler, we'll talk about a lot later. That one on IMDb, if you're interested in its synopsis. 2 high school nobodies make the decision to crash the last major celebration before the new millennium on New Year's Eve in 1999. The night becomes even crazier than they could have ever dreamed when the clock strikes midnight. Seems like an interesting little horror film. A24 always has a way to kind of win the hearts of everybody at any time of year. Jake, what do you think about the synopsis?
This movie. Now I will date myself here. I was born in 2002. I don't even remember Y2K to begin with. A lot of people who like A24 films probably don't either. But not to age range it for A24 because I know a lot of people who like A24. But this movie, I'm a little excited for it because it hopefully captures the fear that I think Y2K kind of had on everybody. I was at work. It wasn't a few days ago. Somebody had asked me about this movie. And then we got in the whole age thing, and it's like, oh yeah, I wasn't even around. And he's like, it was crazy how much of a hold it had on people that it was gonna roll over and the world was gonna end because ones and zeros weren't gonna work on computers anymore. But I don't know. I hope it captures that that fear, and it's something that I look forward to watching when I can get my hands on it.
Man, like being one also born after the turn of the millennia, um, we are told, at least I've been told, that you wouldn't know what to do without your technology. But then again, just 11 months before I'm even born, the world was freaking out that, oh, if our clocks don't set, the world's gonna end. I don't want to hear any more. I don't want to hear any more about being a technological. I've heard the term. Have you heard the term technological immigrant? Like people who are born before kind of this, like or during this technological wave, who are learning it versus me and you who are kind of born with it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
We
have not heard that. I love that phrase though. That captures it almost perfectly.
Right.
Um,
We are technological natives. And so I don't want to hear any more about this. Oh, our clocks won't go right if it turns into 2000. But I'm coming off of my high horse here and being serious. I'm excited. A24 kind of seems to come out and hit a really fun niche. And to be honest, it seems like this film isn't really aimed towards those who like, yes, you have those like you're talking about for those at your work who are like, yeah, like it was a crazy time. But this seems to kind of be like, for us who were born after it, who were like, yeah, that sounds crazy, man. I wish I was there to experience it. This is kind of like a take that audience and that perspective and put a really fun twist as to what if something did go wrong. So I'm excited for it. I like A24 a lot, and we'll go ahead and wrap out our top 10 here. The best Christmas pageant ever is our last film retaining its title in top 10 from last week. That is again from Lionsgate. It earned 1.5 million, a little over that actually. Looking at these like losses per week, now losses that's a percentage point. That doesn't mean any of these films lost money. They all earned money, but from week over to week over, they didn't make as much as last week. Not one film, I should say it like this. The film that did the best in terms of who made closest to what they made last week was Red One at a negative 44.9%. So I just think that this was a week people really weren't in theaters. I mean, I think the hype from the last few weeks kind of killed it for this week. Everyone's kind of seen it.
yeah, I can't really say for everybody across the country. I will say this weekend for us was at the very least it was a warmer, I think, weekend, so people could have gotten out a little bit more. But that's just regionally where we are. I don't know about other places,
Yeah.
which could factor in. I mean, warmer weekends tend to mean people go out and they feel more comfortable doing things and not sitting in a dark room, you
Right.
know. Um, so, but yeah, to see Red One still be, kind of holding strong, having the lowest loss over the weekend is still a kick in the butt to us because we will crap on this one day in, day out. And
Yeah.
uh, we seem to still be put in our place every single time. I mean, I don't know how this movie's getting 7 million on how many weeks? Fourth week?
Yeah. I think it's right at a month.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's not Christmas yet either. So I could see this movie stick around in the top 10 for the next 2 weeks, maybe.
Maybe the next couple of weeks. But the thing is, I'm looking at its worldwide earnings. It's still 90
Mhm.
million in the hole from what it cost to actually
Oh,
make the film. So like, yeah, like it's holding strong and they might break even, but I doubt that mainly because, and I don't, once again, we don't come on here to hate. We're just kind of like saying what we feel is truthful. With what's coming around the corner, we talked last week Sonic, we talked Mufasa, we talked Nosferatu. I don't think Wicked's going anywhere because they got the sing along version coming out Christmas Day. I just think that this will stick around while there's kind of this lull between major releases. We've already seen it be heavily impacted by films that it tried to actively avoid by releasing a week early. When more come out and this film kind of gets, I think it's going to get its final nail in its coffin come around the week before Christmas.
oh yeah, definitely. Especially with Wicked still dragging in 36 million on its third week.
Yeah, I think Wicked just in the country has earned over
Yeah.
322 million, which is a ridiculous
Yeah.
number. That's just domestically. That is not internationally. Its international number is almost 500 million. So this is a very popular film, and that's before its sing-along version, and the controversies will finally come to a close. Speaking of coming to a close, that is the end of our first segment, box office numbers. Coming up next, we get our first sneak peek at the live-action Snow White remake, news regarding HBO's Harry Potter series, and George R.R. Martin comments. All this after the break. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. We're going to hop right into segment 2, major film news. Now, if you've been on the internet, you will have probably seen the memes that have come out about the latest Snow White live action adaptation and in the remake that is coming next year. A trailer dropped this past week, and let me tell you, it is universally hated. It is it's clowned upon. It is bad. The film stars Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, and is directed by Mark Webb, who did the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies, well, both 1 and 2. If you've ever seen Snow White, which was, in fun fact, the first animated film by Disney, you will know that the story notoriously has 7 characters with dwarfism. However, in the film, only 1 actor with dwarfism was actually cast in the film. The rest were all CGI. They were all just straight up computer animated. That actor, by the way, being Martin Kleba. The remaining actors were voice actors. This has spurred a lot of controversy amongst moviegoers. The film is heavily CGI. Even the background in the forest that Snow White finds herself in looks terrible. Jake, what do you think about this?
I think there's a right way and a wrong way of going about things. So the right way being, there's no way you're going to have all those animals help clean that house. You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in animal husbandry. If you know what animal husbandry is, don't leave that in the comments. But yeah, using CGI on that for the dwarves, I don't think it's the right move, especially with everybody talking about, oh, Disney's woke, they've gone woke, and even what's her name, Ziegler, you said, or yeah, even her being this role model, or she's trying to change Snow White's story to make it, quotations, more woke, as people put it, and then Disney kind of does the CGI dwarves. Like, come on. I can get behind hiring a full dwarf cast as with people with dwarfism, but just the one feels like an insult. Either full CGI and bite the bullet, or hire the full cast. But doing just one, come on, man.
It almost feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it almost feels like they checked off a box. Like they like, well, we got to get at least one, right? Like it just feels so backwards, and it feels so hypocritical. And we were just talking before we were recording, how much could this have been affected by a couple of years ago, if you remember, comments by the one and the only Peter Dinklage. He went on record, many podcasts, to say, when, I should say 2 years ago in 2022, when the teasers were coming out, when it was saying, hey, this movie is happening, Peter Dinklage would say that the 7 dwarves are an insult. He went on to lambast Disney to say, why are we still doing this? We're in the 21st century. Why is this happening? Jake, how much do you think that those comments might have impacted the casting and overall feel of this film?
I think Peter's been a prominent figure in films, and he's been someone who's been such a pillar of, like, he's not going to change. He's not going to. So he made a promise to himself, I think, several years back when he was first coming up as an actor, that he would not play roles that made him like an elf or a gnome or anything science fiction. He wanted, not science fiction. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So he's playing the mad scientist and underdog. He's doing the Game of Thrones, where they wanted him to be a little bit more mythical, but he's not going to do that. And I think George R.R. Martin was like, yeah, I completely agree, and he just cast Bro as one of the smartest guys in the land. So to have him comment on the dwarves, I think he's right, kind of, but it's not going to sway Disney. They're going to go wherever the money is,
Yeah. I think something to clarify too, when we say dwarves, we're talking about the characters. We're not talking about the people.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I did it a second ago too, and I just had this horrible thought that maybe people misunderstood what we're referring to. We're talking about the characters, not actual human beings. We're talking about these characters and Snow White and the 7 dwarves. So, moving on from that point, just to make ourselves clear here, The film is Disney's most expensive live action remake to date, with a budget of over 269 million. This has really been the major crux, my major question when we talked a lot extensively this first month of this show, and especially because it's just what's in right now, right? When will quality finally overtake quantity in terms of philosophy with such projects, if ever? If you think about it, Disney, you can take that to DreamWorks with the How to Train Your Dragon. It's really about, okay, let's get this out there because we want to tell our stories in a more real, quote unquote, sense. At some point, I don't think it's necessarily something that we should talk about here. I don't think the problem is that they're rehashing these stories in another medium. That happens all the time. I think the problem is that they're rushing to get them out due to competition. You have a driving competition, which then pushes these things to come out. When you get quantity over quality, quality dips. So now these movies are worse. You're spending millions upon millions of dollars. And really, none of them have, outside of The Lion King, have really panned out. At least I would think to what at least Disney's standards are. Jake, that's kind of my main question I posed to you specifically. When will quality finally overtake?
I think you'll see it come about um, with kind of the political unrest right now, anti-establishment level. When people really push against even like DreamWorks and Disney and Pixar, I think you're going to see a lot more people want the indie filmmakers, and this isn't going to be some kind of massive wave that'll happen overnight. I think it'll be a gradual. We'll see a lot more A24 type companies come about, and I don't think we'll ever see the downfall of Disney, unfortunately. But I don't necessarily care for Disney that much. But I think we'll see some other production houses come about and hopefully change the game, add quality back into the pool, and create whole new stories. And eventually, we'll probably repeat the cycle where those stories will have sequels and prequels, and it'll all go downhill from there. Just as it usually does. Disney started somewhere, and maybe we'll have a new Disney one day. I don't know, but that's what I think will happen. I think quality will dip so far that people will just be like, "Jesus Christ, can we have something else?" You know. That's what I think will happen.
No, I completely agree. And I don't think we'll ever see the downfall of Disney, but I think that it will hurt their pockets so much at some point. At the end of the day, it comes down to us, the viewer, to say, look, we will not be satisfied by this slop. At some point, we have to stop taking our kids to see these movies, as difficult as that is, right? We have to say, you know what, we want better, because if we don't, we're just going to keep getting the same. We'll see. Moving on, actually, the great segue here. HBO Max is reportedly working on their Harry Potter series, and they're making a fantastic headway. HBO reportedly is targeting I May Destroy You and Black Mirror actor Papa Esiudu for the role of Severus Snape. Other HBO series details as we know them. Ralph Fiennes is all in on Cillian Murphy to portray the legendary villain Voldemort, quote stating, "He is a fantastic actor. I would be all in favor of Cillian." Other actors being considered for roles in the series include Mark Strong as Dumbledore, Sharon Horgan as Professor McGonagall, and Brent Goldstein as Hagrid. Now, all these actors come from across a varying level and degree of very successful movies and shows, specifically Goldstein as Hagrid. He is in Ted Lasso. He's one of the players. Jake, what do you think of this really all-star cast that HBO seems to really want to try to put together for a potential series for Harry Potter?
I mean, I'm all for trying to tell a new story, especially, is this being set before the events of Harry Potter? Probably because Dumbledore's, spoiler alert, alive.
So this is retelling everything. So that's what's interesting. That's a great segue. Before we get to there, over 32,000 kids have submitted casting calls and tape for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The first season will be 8 hours long, with more than likely each episode being 45 minutes to an hour each. Here's what's interesting with how they're doing it. The movies, and at first I had a big problem with them redoing the series again and doing a show instead, because it's like, we've already got the story, we grew up with it, let it be, let it sit for a while, let it marinate before you redo everything. However, the movies missed out on a lot because of their limited runtime. When you only have 2 hours to tell an entire book, and if you've ever read the Harry Potter books, they're thick. Each one's very thick. There's a lot that got left out in the original movie series. Having 8 hours to delve into one book allows you to really go forth and tell more story that the films just weren't able to get into. So these for those, and that's a great point because I didn't describe that at the beginning, and that's my fault. This is a entire retelling of Harry Potter. This is an entire retelling of from book 1 to book, what are there, 6? This is from scratch, brand new, with a deeper, kind of a bigger magnifying glass on more of the dark corners of Harry Potter lore.
Okay. So with that in mind, I think that the cast is going to be a good one. You've got some pretty strong players. I can't wait to see Mark Strong. I love a Mark Strong movie. I love the Kingsmans, and then he was in the Penguin. He did pretty good there. Um, I don't know how what's his name Pop was going to do because well, Severus Snape, and I was talking to my girlfriend about this, is he's supposed to be this long black hair, greasy, hook nose, a guy that you genuinely are scared of. And when I look at Papa, uh, he doesn't scare me. But that's because he's not dressed up, as
He's
Snape.
a
He's
looker.
not got all the production.
Let's just put it out there like it is, Jake. He's a good looking guy. Like he's not what you would
Yeah,
imagine
he's a good-
Cerberus, like in terms of facial features, to look like. Like Cerberus Snape is, as you said, he's like a scary looking, almost you want to say like dirty with his greasy hair. He's not like an attractive man. But when you think about it, what did the films do to that character? Alan Rickman played the character to a T.
Yeah. No, and even the actor that played Severus in the movies, the young actor, even then it was kind of like because you're supposed to feel bad for him, and he's not as good looking as Harry Potter's dad, even as like when they were growing up and as they grow older, and so you're supposed to get that. When I look at Papa, I'm like, what? He's a good looking fella, like I don't know what. He usually hates on himself and is jealous of Potter for many reasons. And I don't know. I look forward to seeing what they do with just the design, the costume design, and the makeup they put on this guy. Because they're going to have to make him look a little bit more sleep deprived than the IMDb photo I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that says a lot about his acting chops and what they think about him for him to portray something that he's never had the opportunity to yet. Like this is a character that as we're taking him on face value and other characters he's played, this is the exact opposite. So I think that says a lot about his acting career and how Max views him as a potential candidate for Cerberus.
But all in all, I'm here for more Harry Potter, especially if it's a much deeper look with magnifying glass. So is season 1 gonna be like first episode or like first book? I mean, first book. Season
Yes.
1 is first book.
Yes.
Okay.
They have 8
I
hours
can see
still
that
through a
being.
book.
So we're obviously gonna have overlap here with because this is the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, whichever. Um, yeah, this is going to be fun. I hope they do it justice and don't take too many creative liberties, and that'll be a good segue into the next topic here, Ryan. If you want to take it away.
So that just before we move on, that Harry Potter series is slated to release in 2027, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, I don't have it written down here, it's going to be a 10-year event to go through the entire series, so we're in for a lot of Harry Potter. But moving on, talking about staying true to source material, George R.R. Martin, and you referenced him earlier, and I hope you kept him in your mind because he's back. He had a lot to say about his writing career and what he thinks about adaptations, taking liberties, especially creatively, to change story from one medium to the other. Martin, quote, I am 13 years late, talking about his book, the last book in the Game of Thrones series. A lot of people are already writing obituaries for me. They're saying, oh, he'll never be finished. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm alive right now. Martin has also doubled down, and as I described, for his disdain for these adaptational changes. He is currently working, and this all overlaps, so bear with me. Martin is currently working as a producer and financier for a short film adaptation of his childhood friend, and his friend's name is Harold Waldrop. He has a short series titled The Ugly Chickens. That's going to be the name of the film that he's producing, that he, as in Martin, is producing. This interview was conducted with The Hollywood Reporter. Martin would describe how he's only made one change between book to film series / movie, describing he enjoys a faithful adaptation when it comes to such projects. Martin states, quote, "Maybe I'm one of the few people in Hollywood who still thinks that when you adapt a work of art, a novel, a short story, you should do a faithful adaptation. It annoys me so much when they change things, and I don't think they generally improve them." Jake, what do you think about George R.R. Martin, and his just kind of rant and ramble?
I think people have, of course, a right to the opinion. I probably lean more with Martin here. Just I like the idea of a faithful adaptation. You'll know from past episodes, I am somewhat of a fan of the fan service and doing things the way that people want it to be done. So remaining faithful to source material, even and I'll bring up The Witcher here. Like a lot of people don't like things about The Witcher because it's not necessarily true to the video games were. So I lean on that on the adaptations. Now, are there going to have to be creative liberties? I mean, even with and I'll go back to Harry Potter. Those were books, you know, and going into a movie, things had to be lost. And going into the TV show, I think still things are going to be lost. So, how do you remain faithful? Is it asking the author if they're still alive or doing things like that? I don't know how many people actually really like person who wrote Harry Potter, but you know, how do you remain faithful uh, to something and then try to also tell that story in a new medium? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do believe staying faithful uh, would be the right route in most cases.
I agree. I can agree with trying to stay as faithful as possible, but where I will disagree is that sometimes things just are better conceptualized on written word than they are as actual physical, like visible manifestations of stories. So where I kind of disagree with George is, look, you have this amazing series, even though you haven't finished it yet, with which I have a theory why that's not done yet, but we'll get to that here in just a second. You have to understand that, especially in the realm, this is fantasy, right? Like this is a completely everything we talked about Star Wars last week. How Denis Villeneuve, how he was having a tough time because he was so mad at where Star Wars was in terms of just copy paste every single movie. They have their genre and they stick to it. How he wanted to break that mold, and he, as one of the most creative people on the planet, he couldn't get out of that. I think you have to allow creators to create. If you give a permission slip to adapt your film, or adapt your story, that's the thing. It's called an adaptation. And some things, again, are better conceptualized. I agree with the point. Stay as close to the source material as possible because there's a reason the source material is popular. But I somewhat disagree because, look, you can dream as far as your dreams can take, right? Like you can do whatever you want in terms of, hey, conceptualization, let's do this. However, some things just translate better. And I just don't think that he really appreciates that because at the end of the day, he's an author first. He's a novelist first. He's not a filmmaker. He is not a multimedia medium storyteller. Going back to my theory with The Winds of Winter, which is the final book in the Game of Thrones series that he has not yet finished, I actually think that he's very bitter about the end of the show. Everyone knows that the producers on that kind of moved away from his thought. However, I think that, at least in my theory, in my humble opinion, the reason the book is taking so long was because the show's ending was actually a lot closer to the book's ending that wasn't yet finished. And when the people revolted, George had to restart because he realized how bad people hated it. So I think that's really why. And if you take that into consideration, that's completely a theory. There is no I have no evidence to back that up other than I've watched the show, right? And I've listened to this guy ramble, and he's earned his spot with the microphone. If he speaks, you have to listen because he is one of the most creative just storytellers of any generation. However, maybe that bitterness comes from the fact that he had a story he wanted to tell and he had an ending in mind. He told these producers, they went with a version that was somewhat similar, and people hated it. And he had to turn and blame somebody.
Yeah, that's That's like having an answer to a math question and some other kid yells it out first and they were wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh,
Oh, I gotta change it. I gotta I gotta hop on this. Um, or if you're presenting or no icebreakers in college, dude. When oh, what do you guys like to do? I like to play video games. It's like, darn it, that was my thing.
no, like to go back to your first example, it's like someone spits out your answer before you do, and they're wrong. So you're vigorously erasing before the professor or teacher picks on you to say what you were gonna say. Yeah, like, I mean, it's the same thing, and I hate that for the series if that's true. I hate that for the series. I hope it gets released because if it doesn't, we're just gonna have the biggest cliffhanger in I should say book history. I'm not for sure what the correct term for that is, but just in terms of just storytelling, we're never going to see the true ending if he doesn't finish it. And I hope he does. I hope he gets some sort of creative inspiration and gets it done. But I would hope he would get a little less bitter about adaptations. With much respect to the man, but relax. You know, we're all having fun here. You know, coming up after the break, we're headed into our final segment, and we will tell you what you should know before you go. Right after this. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen. Well, you've made it to segment 3, what you should know before you go. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you enjoy the show, give us a like, give us a share, leave a comment, do all those fun things that we love for you to do. And if not, thank you for stopping by. We'll wave you along. Jumping right into segment 3, we got some drama brewing up in the world of filmmaking. Despite being the creative force behind Disney's most successful live-action remake, the Lion King director Taylor Jenkins initially held reservations about returning to an almost fully digital set for Mufasa, which comes out, as we talked about, later this month. Jenkins, who is the director of the 2017 Oscar winner Moonlight, would describe in an interview with Vulture his desire to lean back into a more practical set for his future projects. Quote, "It is not my thing. It is not my thing. I want to work the other way again, where I want to physically get everything there. I always believe that what is here is enough, and let me just figure out what is the chemistry to make alchemy." Jake, what could these comments mean for Mufasa if its own director is looking to steer clear of the very technology used to make the film?
Well, I don't think he's necessarily going to steer away 100%. I read an article um, on that director and how he learned a lot from making these movies with the technology. Now, I will always be an advocate as well for the physical creation of things or doing things more physical. So at work and with marketing, we notice that a lot more people just desire that in-person authenticity, and I think that goes both ways for the viewer and for the creator. And so the creator, imagine being in a room and all you're doing is staring at a computer screen of 3D models. Like there's no, there's no connection. There's no physical. I can't tangibly touch the costume. I can't see the lighting because the lighting is all artificial, and so there's no. A lot of people say that there's no soul. There's no soul. So I think he's going to learn a lot from what he's doing. He has learned a lot, and he's going to use that elsewhere. Hopefully, we won't get another Snow White type trailer. Uh, but I think he's going to use the technology from these past films and move on and get what he desires back. And he's probably going to be better for it, I think.
Yeah, and to kind of go along with that point about how difficult it is to work on an all digital film, we take that back 10 years ago when it was mostly CGI, or I should say green screen, less CGI, more like imposed, not quite Snow White level CGI. When you think of Ian McKellen, if you've ever seen that clip of him on the set of The Hobbit, it's a completely green room set. And he's supposed to pretend that these I cannot remember which characters were surrounding him, but he was in Bilbo's little hut, and he broke down in tears because there was no one there. Like he kept messing up because it was just it's so difficult, exactly to your point, a digital set where you can't physically manipulate things and you got to play pretend to the utmost extreme is tough. So I can completely understand why he is looking to get back to a physical set. However, as you had said before, he learned a lot from it. And on top of it, Jenkins did not rule out the possibility of returning to a similar technology with one major IP in mind and a little bit of a caveat. He said, quote, a Muppet movie done in this style would be awesome. Awesome. In the same way we generate our PlayStation versions of a scene, we could have a set that's just the actual physical puppeteers, and Muppets are blocking the scene, but just in a black box, you know? So when he says blocking a scene, he means like you have the actual puppeteers actually moving in physical space, like making up what would be like a storyboard, and less of them just being voice actors speaking into a microphone and everyone pretending that they're moving. So I think that would be really interesting to see. You have an Oscar winner who is moving away from complete like CGI and digital filmmaking, talking about making a Muppet movie.
Am I mistaken, or do people go crazy for the Muppet movies? Like, I feel like
do.
that's they do. See, he just can't stay away. That's what it is. He's gonna. I want something that's more real. I want to be there. I want to feel it. And it's like, but a Muppet movie would be awesome. It's like,
but
oh,
Muppet,
geez.
Kermit. Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, I don't know what is the pull with the Muppets, but man, people go crazy for them. I think they're hilarious films, but I don't know. There's that. Speaking of another clip that you see, they like going around on the internet. It's when they got Michael Caine to act as Scrooge in a Muppet take on what was it? I keep wanting to say Nightmare Before Christmas, but that's not it at all. But he was Scrooge, and the joke is that they're like, look, it's a Muppet movie, Michael. You don't have to act all serious, and this is going to be the most serious I've ever acted in my career, was apparently his response, or at least that's how he took it, because he was so dead serious in that film, and it's a good movie. Like, it's a good Muppet movie. I don't understand why people put their all into these films, but they're good, man. Moving on, 28 years later has released a new chilling poster for the upcoming Danny Boyle and Alex Garland film. Along with it revealing the tagline, "Time didn't heal anything." Following the poster release last week, they released their first official trailer. It is spooky. It looks good. The film will star Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Cillian Murphy, and Ralph Fiennes. Jake, what do you think?
Unfortunately, this kind of falls under that horror movie-esque, and I haven't seen the other two. I probably won't see the third one. My dad is actually super into like the more zombie-esque genre, so I'm sure I'll hear from him. He loves the first two, and I'm sure I'll hear about the third from him. But I hear that Murphy might not be in it. He might be a cameo. Like he's definitely on set, I believe, but he's not even on the movie poster.
Yeah, I almost left him off of that list, but it's kind of like everyone knows he's going to be in it. He's just his involvement's in question. So I'm still going to throw him in there because it was one of the films that took him off the map was 28 Days. I love 28 Days. I don't know how much about I cannot remember the second one. I think it's Months, and it just wasn't necessarily my
Weeks.
Was it Weeks? The second one's Weeks.
Yep.
That one wasn't really my favorite, but Days is one of the most. It's super indie, and it's just so. If there was a zombie apocalypse, I feel like that would be how it would actually happen and how it would actually be portrayed in a real world setting. So I was very invested in the original 28 film. This, from what I had been reading, this is probably going to spawn a trilogy. So this is the beginning of a higher budget continued storytelling medium for Alex Garland and Danny Boyle with this franchise. Moving on, Robert Pattinson.
Well, we're gonna get. Sorry to stop you. We're gonna get 28 seconds. We're gonna get 28 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then we're gonna jump to 28 hours. And then possibly sneak peek into 28 months, like you said. So.
If there is an increment of time, they will find it and they will use it for their gain. I hope that doesn't mean the films will get shorter though. Moving on, Robert Pattinson, quote, "I'm Batman," after an immigration officer at a passport control stopped the prolific actor, asking, "Hey, you're the guy from Twilight. Why'd you stop acting?" What is up with that? Where was this guy been?
That guy, come on, man. That's gotta be one of the worst things. If I was Pattinson and that, I'd be like, are you kidding me?
Like, I'm literally Batman.
Like dude, and that's what everybody's saying online too. Like I'm literally Batman. What are you talking about? What do you do from the hours of like midnight to 5 a.m.? And it's like, well, I'm out saving. Like everybody's just like, I'm literally Batman. And then this guy is Batman. Some immigration officers is, hey, aren't you the guy from Twilight? Dude, I'd be livid. I'd be so mad.
Yeah, that vampire will not. He'll never run from it. I think, and he notoriously hates it. He notoriously hated the role. He thought it was so weird. If you've ever seen him talk about it, I feel so bad for him because he's such a good actor. He's so good at what he does, and he just can't escape Twilight. Good. I mean, I actually don't mind the Twilight series if you watch them from a comedic point of view. They're hilarious. They're really funny. They're a good watch if you're looking to laugh. But man, I would hate to be a serious actor like Robert Pattinson. Again, literally Batman, and he is still getting called by TSA agents. Hey, you're the guy from Twilight, right?
Yeah, it's I feel for him, but yeah, he said in another interview, right, that he could be retiring.
Yeah, I think it was a joke. So the Batman series continuing on with more present day things instead of Twilight. The Batman series is taking a really long time to kind of get underway. And in an interview with, I'm pretty sure this is Screen Rant, he made a joke about, yeah, I could be retiring by the time the trilogy ends because it's taking so long. However, a lot of people are worried that this is a more serious take because, I mean, the guy has expressed interest in producing. So could this be he finish the Batman, say, hey, I've done my time in the cowl. I've kind of set my if you as an actor play Batman, you've kind of reached the top of the mountain in your acting career. I don't know if there's anyone outside of like who has played the Batman outside of Christian Bale and has had a better career afterwards, right? So like
Beetlejuice just came out.
Michael
There
Keaton.
you go. There's your answer.
Okay, all right. I mean, sure, Michael Keaton stayed relevant, but let's be real. He's still Batman. You know, like
He did come back as Batman there for a little bit.
he did. He
for
did
one movie.
for just for a minute in a terrible movie. But yeah, I think it's an interesting take by a really good actor who I think he would be a fantastic producer / director if he really wanted to go that route. Because if you listen to interviews with him, he is so intelligent. He's a very, very smart guy.
So I didn't see anything in my quick search in terms of could he not just be talking about retiring as Batman? I was looking up the ages of all the Batman, and they generally don't make it past, I think it's like 45, definitely not 50. You don't see an actor over 50 playing Batman.
Yeah. At least
So
not
and Keaton, you know, obviously probably broke that.
not
but,
normally. Yeah.
But like Affleck, I think in his last movie, he's like 45. So maybe, and this might be a long shot, that Pattinson's actually talking about when the third movie comes out, bro's gonna be 40 something, and it's gonna be time to kind of hang up the cowl and let the young fart do it, you know? So
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's talking about. Probably not.
Well, and for
Yeah, if he's
him,
expressed, do what?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
If he's expressed that he wants to produce, that's likely where his passions, you know, will take him, and we'll see him retire in terms of definitely the Batman. He might, you know, come for some roles, but if he wants to produce, I would say all power to him. He's going to be a great one.
Yeah. And with that point, that's actually a really good point because you got to remember the Batman, the Matt Reeves films that Pattinson is the star of, they're Elseworld. They're not quite canon in the DCU as James Gunn has dubbed it and as he's moving forward, which is a great segue into our next segment. But final thoughts. If he wanted to just retire after 3 from the character, there's already going to be another one.
Yeah, for sure. It's I kind of wish they'd let Batman just kind of mellow out. Can we get like a Martian Manhunter movie or something like that?
Batman Beyond? Like, can we get past Bruce?
Yes.
Can we?
Dude, I've been seeing so much for the Spider-Verse way of like that movie, but Batman Beyond. I've been seeing so many people on like TikTok and they're like, yes, let's get this going. They're missing out on so much money if they don't do this. And I think it would be the right move and I know it's a Marvel probably thing with Into the Spider-Verse, but Batman Beyond with that would be crazy.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And so the filmmakers of Into the Spider-Verse made like a teaser for a potential Batman Beyond, exactly what you're saying. But apparently Warner Brothers turned it down. That's the report anyway, that they said no.
That's what everybody was saying. It was oh, y'all scared of money then, huh?
Yeah.
Y'all don't want any.
Let's say no to this amazing concept and let's greenlight what was their latest film? Are they doing Minecraft? Is that them?
Yeah, probably. I
Yeah.
think Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Hold
certain
on,
that
I'll
they're
look it
doing
up.
the Minecraft movie, and they decided Jack Black in a teal shirt going "I am Steve" was worth more than their Batman Beyond Into the Spider-Verse style of comic book movie, which is really
Which I
upsetting.
mean, their second trailer looked better than their first one, but I'm still skeptical
I
of it.
will not be sold on a Mario. Sorry, I was sold on a Mario movie. I will not be sold on a Minecraft movie. I will not. You can't do it. I
He
won't.
just lied. He
Just
just lied to everybody.
lying through
He
my
was
teeth.
sold on that Mario movie.
I was sold on the Mario movie. I thought it was pretty good, but no, the Minecraft movie, I refuse. Moving on, talking about DCU, James Gunn's DCU, as we were just talking about, has officially made its debut after a couple years. We've been waiting for a while. With the release of Creature Commandos, it's an animated series. We got to see in some of these first few episodes, we got to see John Cena's Peacemaker in there. We got to see, I cannot remember the actor's name, but we got to see the James Gunn Superman in there. I think his last name's like Cornette or something. Sorry, I didn't write that down on my paper, and I'm blanking in the moment. However, speaking about the DCU and kind of its structure, why is this a quote-unquote canon show if it's animated? The showrunner has made these comments apparent. This is more like Star Wars. In an interview with the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Gunn described how, much like Star Wars, his films will take place within the same universe, unless stated otherwise, as we talked about the Elseworlds movies earlier, but might not directly impact each other. So separating himself from the Marvel, where it's like they all have the same feel, they all have the same storyline, they all affect each other in some way. He's saying, look, this is a large world. We are, as he says later, we are world building, not story building. So he's building the DCU, but the thing is that not whatever Batman or Batman Beyond does might not impact what Superman does. What the Creature Commandos are doing might not impact what a potential Martian Manhunter might be doing, which I think is an interesting take because that allows you to kind of grow and delve into different genres within your story. And yeah, some things might connect. I think in that same interview, he talked about, hey, we will potentially have overlapping villains, but we'll keep that to a minimum. I think that's a really refreshing way of doing this, especially the superhero franchise. We talked about and I think in the first week, actually, how superhero fatigue was real. Tired of it, should have probably stopped after Endgame for a while. This is a way to keep me invested in the superhero genre. If we're gonna get unique takes with similar faces every other year, every year, or something like that. What do you think about that?
Well, when Iron Man came out, and then the subsequent Marvel movies, they weren't necessarily tied together either. I mean, Iron Man had his own IP, and then it was gosh, who came out after that? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Captain America was fairly next in line. They didn't necessarily overlap, other than Daddy Stark, you
Right.
know. And so this isn't something necessarily new. I'd like to see what James Gunn, does with it, but not tying everything together like we're getting, closer to Endgame. Um, it's not something that is new, but it is definitely going to be a little more refreshing on a viewer's mindset. I think going in, I don't have to worry about, geez, is Batman going to be fighting Superman again? Like,
Right.
am I going to have to worry about what Aquaman's kissing a fish while somebody else is fighting Amber Heard?
Oh
Um,
God.
we're not going to get that anymore. I hope so.
No,
It's
and
definitely going to be refreshing, but I'd like to see what James Gunn does with it.
to continue on your point, and my point from a second ago, it's like every Marvel movie has a similar feel. I just imagine what it's going to be like after this world has been established and the storylines are starting to kind of connect a little bit. Not to the point of Marvel, as we just said. They're all their own unique ways of going about it, just kind of living as neighbors, maybe not so much correlating. But imagine what's going to happen when Superman finally meets Batman. What pop is that going to get, right? Like when Iron Man runs into Captain America, that wasn't necessarily that big of a deal with Marvel, like it was when it originally happened. But like when you got closer to Endgame and stuff, you expected it, right? Like with the new Spider-Man movie, when Doctor Strange showed up in the latest Spider-Man, I should say, it wasn't shocking. Of course, later in that movie, we got Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up, and that was a little surprising. I mean, I guess if you weren't paying attention to the internet, but like you expected to see at least one other non-title superhero showing up in said title superheroes film. I think this is a great way to kind of reestablish that look. These guys don't really connect, and when they do, it's this monumental moment. So that's why I'm kind of excited for that concept. But yeah, no, I've always been a James Gunn fan. It was kind of they were taking a risk. Warner Brothers and DC were taking a risk when they hired him over from Marvel to run their entire story arc. I I like it. Creature Commandos is good. It's very positively reviewed. People seem to really enjoy it. It's a fun first 2 episodes that are out on Max right now. I like Creature Commandos. Moving on, Scream 7. Now, if you've been paying attention to anything film, especially horror in the realm of scary in this year, you'll know that there was a plan for Scream 7, but that failed. That fell through when stars Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, well, Barrera was fired, and Jenna Ortega left shortly after. A lot was left in the dark, not really sure what was going on with that. The story has been reshaped to fit Neve Campbell's return as the long-standing franchise character of Sidney Scott. It was earlier announced that Gen V's Asa Germain joins the restructured cast. It was also announced in October that the 7th installment will be released in February of 2026. I kind of think we're talking about things that probably have too long of a shelf life, right? We're talking about before Marvel probably needs to take a step back. I would like to see Scream take a breath. They had a lot of really positive last few films. They've had that both. I think both Scream 5 and 6 were good. But now you're losing what you were betting your whole franchise on. I think it's time to take a break. I mean, Neve Campbell will be great. I love Sidney Prescott's character. I don't mean to spoil it. If you watch the last Scream, Dewey died. So it's like, what's going to happen with that love interest? I think it's time to take a breath from the franchise. I hope Scream, I'm a big Scream fan, so I would like to see Scream do, like, just knock it out of the park with their 7th installment. Can't promise it'll be great. Jake, I know you're not a big horror fan, but what do you think about this whole thing going on with Scream 7?
I think Scream 7's always been that kind of, to me anyway, more of the funny horror, and I never really got the super bloody, gory, like what am I describing? Like so Saw and the Nun and stuff like that, where it's more. I don't know. There's something about it just feels a little bit more scary to me than like Scream movies were. Now I could be wrong about that because I have not seen all 7 of these, but it could be getting to whether it's it's a level of Fast and Furious. So could we see Scream 12? Eventually.
Oh, boy.
Where's the stopping point here, guys? Because the butt of the joke is Fast and Furious is. It's like, come on, how much can family really mean, guys?
Right.
So I think that's. I hope. I don't know what I hope, but Scream 7 might become the new meme.
And you're right about that, by the way. So Scream 7 is notoriously meta. The whole point of its creation as a series by Wes Craven was it's a joke. It's meant to make fun of other slashers, so it's very smart with itself. In fact, the majority of the people that you follow as heroes and protagonists are horror film junkies. And when Ghostface shows up, majority of the time they're going through horror film rules about how you would survive a horror film if you were in one while they are in a horror film. That's like the whole joke of the series. So you're completely right. It's not quite as scary. It is. I mean, there are some spooky moments, don't get me wrong. But the whole point is it's meta. It's very silly. It's meant to poke fun at the genre that it's perpetuating. So with that, I think we can go ahead and move on. We've only got one more piece of news, but I look forward to Scream 7 just to see what they do with this restructuring and restory, but I'm worried about it. The final piece of news we have for you guys tonight, Fallout Season 2 has begun filming. I love the first season. Jake, I don't know if you've seen the first season yet, but I'm excited for Amazon's Fallout series.
I have seen it, and I've also played the games, and so it is something super exciting because I've heard rumors that it is taking place out in the Mojave, so Las Vegas setting. For those of you who don't know, I believe it was, and I've even got it on my desktop here, Fallout New Vegas. So I can't wait for all the references to Fallout New Vegas because if the rumors are true, of course, I think it's going to be a pretty good hit. They're going to bring back. His name escapes me. The cowboy.
Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins. I loved him in Justified, and I can't wait to see more of him as the Ghoul.
Yeah, and there's this post going around about Ella Purnell, who plays Lucy, the main character in season one, about how the producers and directors told her to play New Vegas to kind of get in the feel for the second season. So I, I
That's
would,
awesome.
I'm really excited. I'm not super caught up with the games themselves. I wasn't like a big Fallout kid, but I love the first film. I thought that it was, or the first series. It was fantastic, and I'm excited to see what they do in the second season. And that's all. That's for our show. Jake, any final comments? Anything you want to bring up before we go?
I'll tie it back to our very first segment here because you so rudely bulldozed through some of the one box office thing that I was actually very surprised was the Solo Leveling Reawakened. I didn't even know an anime could be top 10. So that is a pretty good one. I think that came out, at least the series came out this year, and I watched it. It's pretty good if you're an anime fan. Not to oust myself as someone who doesn't shower. I'm kidding, but so I was very surprised to see that that had made top seven and what is it, about $2.5 million. You have anything to say about that, Ryan? You gonna make fun of me
Jake,
for watching
that's
anime?
why we're never gonna have a live show because the audience won't want to be near you, man. They
Yeah,
smell you too much. It's gonna be terrifying for
through
our
the
audience.
camera.
I'm gonna be sitting across this long table with a mic, and the audience is gonna be around, and they're gonna be like, "Step back, everybody, step back," because Jake
Yeah,
Holtzclaw's in the room.
what is this? What does this show become? You know, like, we're just gonna be a bunch of nerds, D&D talk, anime. Yeah, all right.
No,
No,
but
but
in all seriousness, I do love like I'm wouldn't say I'm as much of a as an anime fan as you. I've not seen this series, but I do enjoy the genre. I think it's a very it takes a lot of talent to portray the characters that I've seen in the shows that I've seen. So um, I'm excited to. This has given me something to watch. Is really my kind of my takeaways. I'm excited to see go through the series and then go watch the movie.
yeah, and I've seen a like kind of a, it's not a resurgence because I don't know if it's ever surged before, but a surge in people who the more accepting of anime. So like Chainsaw Man was something that came out recently,
Everywhere.
and people loved that. And a lot of people are getting into One Piece, especially there's a live action adaptation now. So anime is becoming so much more accepted, I guess, in our generation is where I remember growing up. And if you watch that, you were like, "Ugh," and that's why I make the joke. And it's like, I don't really want to hang out with that guy. But now it's like, there's some pretty darn good stories out there.
No, for sure. And it's like what do they used to call people who watch anime weebs, right? Am I
Yeah.
correct on that? Yeah, it's like now it's like I know people who are proud to say that. But back exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Like when I was younger, it's like that was like an insult. And like you did not want to be called that. You wanted to steer clear from that title as much as possible. Now you have people who are like, yeah, I am a weeb, which is don't
Yeah.
clip. That's gonna come back to haunt me, I think, me saying that. But uh
Yeah. That'll be a meme.
but no, but I think you make a great point, and I'm excited to watch. Any other final comments before we let the good people go?
Um, don't be scared to call yourself a weeb.
And with that, this concludes episode 3 of Beyond the Screen. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.